morning and welcome to our live broadcast on Saturday, the 21st March 2020. This is obviously a great day because it's our 30th anniversary of independence. So Namibia, even though COVID is out there and threatening everybody, I think at the end of the day it's very important to also remember that we've got a great achievement in terms of reaching 30 years of a peaceful Namibia at the end of the day. Welcome to Alexander Fazev. Alexander is the boss man here at NMH. He's got the designing team under him and he involves himself with much more than just the designing. So welcome, Alexander.
Thanks, Frank.
So you actually wanted to tell us a bit more about what you've done in terms of archiving and new ideas and where people can look up our past editions.
Thanks, Frank. I think this is a very special week because of the 30 years independence celebrations. And as you know, Namibia has the task to share information and empower communities. So we came up with the idea that we wanted to start a big archive where we do our archiving for all our newspapers and share that with the public. We also have started an NMH video hub. So all the broadcasts, for instance, now the Tourismus broadcast, what we are doing now, all the broadcasts what we do, so it's Business 7, it's Kletskompas, Evening Review for the Sun, we all collect and archive those broadcasts. So for each and every one, it's possible to go to the link and enter the website and search each and every broadcast you want to find and to check and to see. Mm-hmm. And for the rest, we also started with an events calendar. So that's also part of our whole sharing idea with NMH, is that we want to share the calendar with people, with the audience, just to let them know what's happening in Namibia. And obviously, unfortunately, through COVID-19, some events are cancelled, which is of course due to safety of the public. But what we also must recognize is that within a couple of weeks, hopefully when those bans are limited, that we can start again with the events and that people see actually how many events we have in Namibia, and that's quite a lot. I
remember there's a huge number because this is obviously not only tourism or hospitality.
Yes,
it's schools, it's any sport events, and
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I hear a lot of complaints by times, people saying there's nothing going on here in Windhoek or at the coast or in the north. But if you actually go to the calendar, you see there's a lot of things to do over a weekend or during the day.
Now, the problem is always, people always think, why couldn't they coordinate better? But if each and every organization wants to hold something on any given weekend, you've only got 52 possible weekends. Some of them are still long weekends and whatever. Sometimes there's holiday, and obviously everybody wants to do his event at month end. So at the end of the day, the choices are not that huge.
Exactly. So it was our idea, and that's why we wanted to start the whole campaign on the Friday the 20th. Is that we want to make and create and let people experience the history. So the making is obviously with our archive, the creating is with the calendar, and let you experience the history by the NMH Video Hub. So even if you are abroad and you cannot come to an event, but you still want to see it, or you still want to see a show, you can be part of that
and you can event. Obviously go back.
Exactly, yes.
The whole archiving is obviously very interesting because in NMH we've obviously got papers of different ages, like the Allgemeine Zeitung is beyond 100 years already. Republican itself is much older than 40 years, and Namibian Sun is getting on beyond 10 years by far now. So obviously it would be nice if people can actually look into the archive and use it as a library and actually research. And if I remember correctly, you actually said to me that people will be able to actually do word searches at the end of the day.
Unfortunately, we are not there yet. So this is a work in progress. But we are now busy with getting in that process. So within a nearby future, we are able to do that as well.
Yeah. Which is nice, yeah. Now, this is obviously a part of our topics in terms of getting you ready to be able to search on our internet sites. But then obviously we've also brought you our normal topics. Obviously Corona this weekend is the big thing, the COVID virus. And so we earlier in the week had the Aida Mira. Actually it was last weekend. It was the final ship landing or docking in Warfish Bay. And everybody was a bit concerned, but then we got the message that every person on that ship had been tested for COVID, only to find out a few days later that a couple of people, in fact 2 persons, were taken off the ship in Cape Town to be tested for COVID. So everybody was suddenly alarmed and thought the authorities of Namport had been wrong, but it turned out that all of them were negative, so it all turned out for the best. So yeah, I suppose that sort of misinformation will be running around for a while now. Then we obviously wanted to remind you again, we still have that elephant which walks around at the coast, visiting Swakopmund and areas. You might remember that we last time told you that he's roaming there close to Rossmond Country Club. And what seems to happen now, people do start to realize this can't be a permanent solution. This animal at the end of the day can be dangerous depending on the situation. So they plan on relocating it later in the month. So we'll keep you updated as and when that happens. And then finally, we also had Gondwana. They are entering into specials now. Obviously, most of the hotels will do that now. And you can help me here. Which hotel is this again?
Or you're putting me now on the spot here. All what I can say is it looks beautiful.
Let's not be. Biebke, what is it again?
Oh, it's the new one. It's
King Nehale. Yeah. Okay, yes. Sorry for that. I forgot to check it out earlier. King Nehale is obviously at the top end of Etosha. Those of you who know Etosha a bit better, as you go from Namutoni Lodge and you leave the Etosha towards Umuthia up in Ovamboland, on the map you can see it there at Okashana and those places. That is the main road you see on top running from Oshibele over to Ondangwa. And Etosha King Nehale Gate is now obviously quite close to Umuthia already. But it's a magic destination. I've been up there. It's just a very nice area, and I think it's nice to see that finally somebody has come to the party and realizes that Ovamboland actually has huge opportunities. So I'm, for one, looking forward to having that sort of development. You remember last year I wrote about all the O regions, and I still feel there's a lot to be done there.
Yes, so, exactly.
So Corona, no Corona, we'll sooner than later have to learn to live with this sort of sickness. And in the long run, I feel this is an opportunity for local people to also get to know those areas up there. So yes, we'll see how that goes forward. Yeah.
As they say, local is lekker.
Local is lekker. This is the new initiative, trying to salvage as much as possible. We've got an interview later in the show with Wolfgang Balzer as well, and you'll see people are making plans to stimulate the growth locally.
Very good, yeah.
And we at NMH do our own part in that respect. You will see on the bottom, we'll float the contact details of Lindy Fisher. Lindy Fisher does all the marketing for Tourismus Namibia magazine. And the idea is obviously that we will give up to 30% discount for people who want to advertise in the Tourismus Namibia now. And I think it's a great initiative because it's like we all say, we're in this together. So we need to find solutions on the local front. Yeah. So Jan, thank you Alexander for being here and sharing these topics with us. Today we've invited Mr. Wolfgang Balzer of the Hotel Thule to come and speak to us a bit about Corona and how it affects the hoteliers and whoever. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the question on everybody's mind is obviously how has Corona affected you, and how do you take care of that?
It's a very, very big problem. It basically came overnight, and we can say Namibia sits with empty hotels and or lodges. That means there's no income, and we all know from a business point of view, no income, you're going to have problems paying your expenses. And that is the reality we are sitting with right now. And therefore we have to implement action plans to try and, we call this a survival plan, to get through this in a certain way. But if this Corona crisis carries on too long, we will have,
serious consequences.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So what measures have you introduced in your hotel?
At this stage, we have informed our staff. We make very sure that there's a lot of communication, and there's also, I must say, a lot of understanding from our staff. We have arranged a new leave plan for the year, and about 40% of our staff is going on to annual leave as from tomorrow morning. And then the rest of the staff will work reduced working hours. At this stage, our plan is to work with about 60% of the normal working hours. That obviously has an impact on their income, but the strategy is, if there's no income, we have to try and save. And through that measure, we hope we'll be able to carry on for a while, and then hopefully when there's a turnaround, that we then slowly can go back onto the normal path again.
So the idea is really not to retrench any people and keep them on as long as you can possibly
That
do
is
it.
definitely our policy. We've also made that very clear. However, we cannot guarantee that.
So what measures have you taken in terms of keeping your staff and yourself safe, or for that matter, your guests?
Yes, we got a very high hygiene standard even before we had this situation with Corona. We have a company from outside who comes on a monthly basis and does a hygiene audit, where we get a report with pictures and we take action immediately if something would not be online. Due to the fact that we have these standards, we have to work with the hygiene audit. Is actually a routine thing, and our marks are always very, very high. That's also what we do. Once a month, we get somebody from the laboratorium, and they do hand checks, and they are done at random. Nobody knows when and who's going to be tested. So through that, we know that the hands are clean anyway, because we work in an environment where they should be clean. So basically we say Corona is a problem, but the hygiene should have been in place before.
In the first place.
Yes. And now with this current situation, obviously there's even more attention to that. We got sanitizers also now for guests and in the rooms, and we've improved a little bit on extra housekeeping, cleaning. As I said, there's no guarantee, but you see the measures you put into place should be of the highest standard. And for us, the difference of what we did before to what we do now was not really big.
Which is good news, because that's what it should be like. I mean,
That
at
is
the end of
correct.
the day, it's a health standard that should be maintained in
That's
any
correct. And the staff also appreciates that and understands that. You see, the main thing is that people are aware why they're doing this. You know, there's a reason behind this. And if they understand that, you've got a whole different approach towards that situation.
And what does the future hold for you guys now?
Well, we are obviously very, very concerned. We got the opportunity of the local market, which however is very small. Nobody can tell us what is going to happen in the near future. Also here with maybe other arrangements, maybe lockouts or whatever. We also have to be realistic. This situation will not have a turnaround overnight. And we just say we have to survive, and we are very confident we will survive financially. And we have all these savings measurements without dropping the standards. That is also very important. And some of our staff, I think I've mentioned that they're going on leave, and the working hours are reduced, and it's accepted very well by all the staff. There's a very, very big concern.
Well, I wish you all of the best for this endeavor, and hopefully this goes over very fast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, and maybe we have a chat in 3 months and we smile.
Yeah, that would be nice, yeah. Welcome back again. As you can see, I've got Chloe Deer in the studio with me again. Just a quick thing, obviously this is destinations, so we're trying to give you a couple of ideas where you can go, what you can experience. Chloe, you wanted to tell us about the Mele Padstal.
Yes, actually Sonia Rabi has created this absolute place of magic on the dust road just before you hit Spruitshoogte or en route to Sossusvlei. And actually a lot of families who go to Namibia for the weekend, they come to, I mean, you can't miss her padstal. And she basically, when her children left home to go to boarding school, obviously empty nest syndrome, she decided to get creative. So on her 4th generation farm, she has literally created a piece of magic where she has foods from local farmers, because obviously it's a very rural area, and she makes use of her old great-grandmother's apple tart recipe, which actually we got one to go as a second helping. It rivals solitaires. So actually her greatest passion and how it all began was actually the Boerenbokke goats that she absolutely fell in love with, and she brought 2 of them from South Africa to Namibia and then started breeding them, and she now has 300. So one of her greatest passions is creating leather work with that. But another thing she does is creating like camping packages. So it has meats that are from her farm, game biltong, local farmers' jams, and she puts them into packages for campers or travelers to pick up and then take on their journeys along with them. And especially now with the coronavirus, actually, she's been really active in taking supplies to local villages and people in the area who are actually really battling at the moment. So that's, I mean, she's clearly a go-getter, Sonia. I mean, she, you won't miss it on the gravel road. The red flags really do
remember
catch
as
your
you
attention.
approach it, you've got these flags. It's actually, for those of you who wonder where exactly it is to be found, it is, as you go towards Spruitshoogte, you've got the Naugas police station, and you obviously have to turn off there towards Spruitshoogte, and it's only a couple of kilometers down the road. You can't miss it. You will have to see it, and it's a very quaint little shop she's got there with all these various items she offers for sale.
Actually, her husband also makes homemade beer, and we decided to take one home for my father on a trip to Sossusvlei. And obviously the temperatures and the change in altitude and everything, coupled with it bouncing around in the car, it actually blew up at a petrol station and almost killed the petrol attendant. So it was quite funny, but it just, I mean, it really is a labor of love and definitely worth a visit.
Yeah. And then you want to take us up to the north, Kongola?
My favorite place in Namibia. Yeah, Kongola is not far from Divundu. It's about 200 kilometers from Divundu on the transatlantic highway. And it's a small settlement, but it has everything you would need. And it's where Mashi Craft Center is, which supplies crafts from all local villages, and all of their names are on the different items that are available. But it also has a general store and a petrol station. So it's I mean, when in the north, fill up as anywhere possible, and it actually has quite a good fuel supply. But it has special restaurants that are popping up, and the African Taste restaurant is somewhere I experienced closer to the end of last year. And it really does just kind of get you into the atmosphere of the region as you go in and you taste the local foods, and it just is, it's really wonderful because, I mean, the colors of the restaurant are so vibrant and people so friendly. So it's that coupled with the African Safari, or Cafe Safari rather, which is a great coffee shop on the corner. It's just, honestly, I love Kongola. I could spend quite a lot of time there. This is
obviously, you just now said transatlantic. I'm sure you meant Trans-Caprivi.
Trans-Caprivi, sorry.
No, just so that nobody's confused here later.
Yeah, so, and it's en route to Nkasa Rapura, very close to Bobwata, so it's very well situated.
Yeah, and it's like you say, that's one of the opportunities you've got to fill up your tank again and just make sure that you've got sufficient supplies. Not that you don't get any along the road, but it's not always guaranteed that you do get. So while you've got the opportunity, fill up and make sure your tank is full, then at least you know if something goes wrong, you can at least reach your next destination. Speaking of next destination, Livingston Camp, you wanted to tell us a bit about that.
Actually, you pass Kongola en route to Livingston Camp, which is a camp that I found by default and absolutely was so happy to come across it, because it was getting late in the evening and we arrived at Livingston Camp, and Jorg, the manager of the camp, he calls it his bushfire. He had a pizza oven that he had fired up, and he calls it his Bushman television. We had no time to cook food, and he came running out of the bushes with so it has that very wonderful feel, but it's also historical. I mean, David Livingstone was a prominent member in the area and very well respected, because he obviously had a huge passion for abolishing slavery. And the Livingston Museum, which is not far from the Livingston Camp, is a wealth of information, because Livingstone had spent years in Botswana trying to find Linyanti, and then it's written in his journals, I came to Linyanti and found the Garden of Eden, because it is a marshland and very similar to the Okavango Delta when in rain season.
Yeah.
But the campsites are incredible. You have private ablution facilities with brass taps and porcelain basins. I mean, you really do get that old colonial kind of feel. And it is the elephant pathway. So you do, even though game is still slowly but surely coming back to the area after the war, you do get the elephants migrating. So it is a magical, I don't want to say too much about the museum itself, because I think it's very important to go to and to support the locals.
Yeah, I think most of the people don't understand or don't realize, but I mean, at the end of the day, Livingston is not only about Vic Falls. He was really in all of that area, and I'm not so sure that most Namibians do realize how much of his work was actually done in our sort of areas, in what is previously known as the Caprivi Strip, but which is now obviously the Zambezi region. Yeah.
And Adolf, the man who actually built Livingston Camp, came to Namibia searching for where Livingston had been, because he had spent days reading Livingston's journals, and he, together with Linus, upgraded the already existing museum. And unfortunately Adolf passed away, but Jorg is kind of reliving that experience by, you could sit and talk to him for hours. So it's a very memorable place to visit.
No, and people need to go there. We always think it's only in other countries that you can actually experience this sort of thing. It's everywhere. History is closer to home than we would always think. Anyway, thank you for coming in, sharing this. Next week, Chloe won't be here. She's obviously on her way again to bring you the next stories. So we wish you well. Remain healthy.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, with me is Wiebke. Wiebke Schmidt is of the Allgemeine Zeitung, obviously doing the show in the German version. But finally for today, we would like you to have a look at a very special picture by Petra Hilkenmeyer. It was made down at Namibgrens and gives you a fantastic view of that area, especially now at this time of the year. It's obviously very beautiful down there. So we hope you enjoy it. Thank you for watching our show today, and remain healthy.